Yo, what's up? Today, I say today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out why black people gave up, what they had just to buddy with people. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause that's pretty much what happened. Black people had a lot going on, and then they were conned and swindled and to stop doing for self and then to integrate and be best friends with people that really don't like you and lose all your stuff. So I want to watch a video from Tomas Sowell. Very, very deep point on, what is the effect of being gang goofy. You know what I'm saying? Call it what it is, of being a goof troop in the world, because that's basically what we did. We did some super duper goofy shit. And we're, dealing with the consequences of doing things like that. It's kind of sad, really. I could be out here, gun ho, shooting big shots, talking shit. No, we don't need to do all that. What needs to happen is we have to acknowledge our mistakes and move forward. But that's really what we have to do. We have to realize we effed up. Ain't nothing wrong with admitting the mistake. We have to also admit that it wasn't just fully our fault, because there's a lot of con artists in the game that got us on this mission. See, they were just talking about stuff like this on Sinet's page, talking about we got to take the advice of the elders and the information that they left. And you know what? A lot of them did leave some cool information, but you got to get out your feelings. You know what I'm saying? I think Charleston White said that shit best. Get out your feelings, nigga. Too much of that has happened, and you're about to find out exactly what I'm talking about. Too much whining, too much pussyfooting. You know what I'm saying? Worried about what somebody else think about you instead of what your children's future is going to look like. Let's go and enjoy this 15 minutes. I'll be chopping it up along the way, but enjoy this 15 minutes.
Led strong instance desegregation in many ways. Ultimately, the Supreme, without having a massive all public. By this, the neighborhood around Dunbar High School was run down, and there was a local saying that children who lived near Dunbar didn't go to Dunbar.
Now, they said from public schools to neighboring schools. That's what they did. Now, here's the thing. Just because the neighborhoods ran down doesn't mean your mind state is. The neighborhood can get ran down for multiple different things. It might not even be the people. It might be the city not helping the people. So when they turn them from public to neighboring, the community around Dunbar wasn't in the best shape. But here's the thing. People were still succeeding. Watch what happened. Check this out.
This had not affected the school's academic standards, however, because black standards, went down, and there was a local saying that children who lived near Dunbar didn't go to Dunbar. This had not affected the school's academic standards, however, because black students from all the rest of the city went to Dunbar. When Dunbar became a neighborhood school, however, the whole character of its student body changed radically, as did the character of its teaching staff.
See, Dunbar was, you could say, was in the ghetto, but it wasn't attended by people in the ghetto. Anybody could go there. So for the most part, I'm basically saying this. Even though black people were in impoverished neighborhoods, they were still getting good education until they started neighboring these schools. Then they would just have you around what you were around. So the teaching got poor, the students got poor, mental, the discipline got poor, and everything went downhill.
In the past, many Dunbar teachers continued to teach for years after they were eligible for retirement because it was such a fulfilling experience. Now, as inadequately motivated, and disruptive students flooded into the school, teachers began retiring, some as early as 55 years of age. Dunbar quickly became just another failing ghetto school, with all the problems that such schools have all across the country. 85 years of achievement simply vanished into thin air. It is a very revealing fact about the politics of education that no one tried to stop this from happening. When I first began to study the history of this school, back in the 1970s, it seemed to me inconceivable that this could have been allowed to happen without a protest. The Washington School Board in the 1950s had included a very militant and distinguished black woman named Margaret Just Butcher, who was also a graduate of Dunbar High School. Surely Dr. Butcher had not let all this happen without exercising her well-known gifts of withering criticism. Yet I looked in vain through the minutes of the school board meetings for even a single sentence by anybody expressing any concern whatever about the fate of Dunbar High School under the new reorganization plan. Finally, in complete frustration and bewilderment, I phoned to Dr. Butcher herself and asked, was there anything that was said off the record about Dunbar that did not find its way into the minutes that I had read? No, she replied. Then she reminded me that racial integration was the battle cry of the hour in the 1950s.
Look at that.
No one thought about what would happen to black schools.
Run it
not
back.
even Dunbar.
Run it back.
Herself, and asked, was board meetings for even a single sentence by anybody expressing any concern whatever about the fate of Dunbar High School under the new reorganization plan. Finally, complete frustration and bewilderment, I phoned to Dr. Butcher herself and asked, was there anything that was said off the record about Dunbar that did not find its way into the minutes that I had read? No, she replied. Then she reminded me that racial integration was the battle cry of the hour in the 1950s. No one thought about what would happen to black schools, not even Dunbar.
See? Being so busy into trying to, be buddy with people. You gotta like me. I'm black, like me. Oh, it's like doing that. In doing that, you put all your energy into, like, I believe Sister Soldier said it best. Forever you guys are going to be trying to be, buddy with people. You're going to be trying to sneak into people's parties, dance with them, and it's like, bro, you're losing your mission. You're losing your mission in doing that. Black people struggled so hard to be noticed by Mr. Charlie that they just let all their accomplishments go to dust.
Now, decades later, we still do not have racial integration in many of the urban schools around the country.
Look at that. Did all that margin just for schools to still be majority one group. White people said all the time, I don't want to go to black schools. Black kids said all the time, I don't want to go to the white schools. So what the hell was the point? What was the point of doing that besides making black people dilapidated and broke, just like what the Klan wanted? See, integration wasn't fought by Republicans. It was fought by Democrats. You guys are just getting the ass end of it. You know what I'm saying? All the time in the 50s that they're marching for integration, they're marching against Democrats. It's only in the 60s when what's his name? JFK says his little thing and then he gets killed. And then here comes LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, and then he offers this to you. He's like, yeah, we have the welfare system, we're going to integrate schools. You can't, why do I keep saying disintegrate? You can't discriminate against anybody, blah, blah, blah. Republicans never wanted you to stop working. They never wanted you to stop having your own cities and stuff like that. They never said that. Like, you have to look in history and check this supposed switch and what was happening politically.
And we also do not have Dunbar High School. Such are the ways of politics, where the crusade of the hour often blocks out everything else, at least until another crusade comes along and takes over the same monopoly of our minds. Ironically, black high schools in Washington today have many of the so-called prerequisites for good education that never existed during the heyday of our high school. And yet the educational results are abysmal.
Now, what are we talking about? The schools back in the day didn't, well, of course, there was no computers, but they didn't have the best seats. They didn't have the best classrooms. They didn't have the best gym equipment, and they still were excelling at an 80% rate, 100 times better than the 20% or 8% rate that is going on in most of these impoverished, low-income communities. So basically saying, even with all the bells and whistles, still these kids are failing at an astronomical rate more than the kids of the past that didn't even have the things that these kids had. So something else is obviously wrong. It's not about spoiling the child. It never has been. It's never been about that. It's about gaining access through achievement. You know, the better you play, the more new equipment you get bought. You know, the worse you play, the less new equipment you get bought. That's usually how anything works. You know, you show up to work, you work enough hours, you get paid. It's very simple, you know.
Adequate funding is always included among these prerequisites. And today, the per pupil expenditure in the District of Columbia is among the highest in the nation, while it's
basically saying Bill Clinton closed the school programs, the after school programs, but at the same time, he took the after school program funding and didn't do anything with it. So that's the same thing they're doing today. That's why these kids aren't getting any smarter. They're taking the money. I want you to know that. They're taking the taxpayer money. Don't get it confused. They're robbing it. They're just not doing what they're supposed to be doing with the money. They're making guilt class and woe is me children and, you know, victims. You know what I mean? Like, you can never accomplish greatness being a victim, you know, because in order to succeed, you have to fight, or you have to, you know, press forward. You have to evolve. You can't devolve. You have to keep going. That's not what they're doing. These people are stuck in slavery. They won't even get to Reconstruction. They're stuck in slavery and civil rights. They won't even get to any of the good stuff that their history actually holds. But there's a reason. There's something that's pushing them to do this, to act this way.
test scores are among the lowest. During the years of Dunbar High School, and yet the educational results are abysmal. Adequate funding is always included among these prerequisites, and today the per pupil expenditure in the District of Columbia is among the highest in the nation, while its test scores are among the lowest. During the years of Dunbar's success, it was starved for funds, and some of its classes had more than 40 students. Failing ghetto school today, Dunbar has a finer physical plant than it ever had when it was an academic success. Politics is also part of it.
Basically saying they got more gym equipment than ever, but the students is dumb as hell. But when they didn't, academically, the students were way better. They were way better off. They were way smart. They basically saying this, in the times that they claimed black people were dumb, they were actually very smart, you know, and it's only today that black people have dumbed down. You know, even in slavery, you weren't dumb. They try to make it sound like that, but a dumb person can't harvest. A dumb person doesn't know about agriculture. A dumb person is not going to know what's proper soil to plant in, what areas to plant things in. It's like they're not going to know that. You know, they're stupid. Remember, not supposed to be bright. So historically, black people are not dumb. You know, they've had, you know, casualties of life, you know, but for the most part, they're not stupid. And it's only until recent Ever since they rejoined the minstrel show, ever since, athleticism has became the big thing. The stage, shucking, jucking, Mr. Bojangles singing and performing, ever since then, they claim in a star-studded sense that Black people are achieving more. But educationally and economically and community-wise, they are failing, which is, it doesn't make any sense. If they were doing better without money, why are they doing worse with money? Because money is not everything. All money is not good money, and that's not the point of reality. So what are we about to find out?
This picture. As a failing ghetto school today, Dunbar has a finer physical plant than it ever had when it was an academic success. Politics is also part of this picture. Immediate, tangible symbols are what matter within the limited time horizon of elected politicians. Throwing money at public schools produces such symbolic results, even if it cannot produce quality education. The aftermath of the decline and academic collapse of Dunbar High School.
How many people y'all know in the ghetto with $500, pants, $200 shoes, chains, nice car, and all that, dumber than a pile of bricks? Probably got the IQ of a waffle. Okay. That is obviously a plan, because if it's not just in the street politics and it's also in the curriculum studies, then that had to be designed, because before then you guys wore suits, you kept yourself bread and buttered. You were very neat people. You took care of yourselves. How do you go from that to sagging your pants? Like, see, sagging your pants wasn't even a thing. How did that happen? It's like we're getting more advanced, more technology is coming around. So, we're getting computers and spaceships and all this different stuff. And you're going from, suits and ties to sagging your pants. See, something psychologically is off. And that's kind of what he's talking about. He said politically, like politics had something to play in this also.
Symbols are what matter within the limited of elected politics. Dunbar has a finer physical plant than it ever had when it was an academic success. Politics is also part of this picture. Immediate, tangible symbols are what matter within the limited time horizon of elected politicians.
Symbols. All these little fraternities people are in. You got to have Louis Vuitton. You got to have Gucci. Symbols. Everybody's wearing their clothes like this now. You got to do it like this now. Hip hop has become rock and roll. A lot of these big time hip hop artists are now dressing like rock and roll. It's symbols. It's direction. But is it a good direction? No. So you're seeing that in the overall view as well as the education. This is where we're talking about indoctrination, where you have people the students are rallying for trans rights, chasing a biological woman for making her argument about the destruction of women's sports due to having to race against a biological male and losing a female award. Women have to remember, the feminist movement is about equality for women and men. So if you're saying that men were unequal to you in past times, and then you're allowing a woman to dress like a man, take on the characteristics of a man, and you're not seeing the brainwashing in that, then at the same time, a man dressing up as a woman and basically fronting as if they were your existence, and you're not seeing the foul play at hand. It wasn't noble, good men that are doing this to you, because they've been told you do not associate with them, do not have nothing to do with any of that. But I digress. Symbolisms, imagery. This is how they lure into the macabre nature of what we would say low cognitive people. Say like that.
Throwing money at public schools produces such symbolic results, even if it cannot produce quality education.
Mm-hmm.
The aftermath of the decline and academic.
Harvard has turned into a complete monster dump of intellectual masturbation. Most of the people in Harvard you would not trust around your kids or with your future like morals. You just wouldn't anymore. Like a lot of these universities do not hold the name of the past that they used to, educational wise. As far as funding, we already know that they were all funded by heroin anyway. The old China trade. Just look it up. All the old universities were funded by heroin.
Academic collapse of Dunbar High School is also revealing. With the new school building, the question arose as to the disposition of the original building. Dunbar alumni wanted that building preserved as some sort of memorial to an historic achievement, but Washington's political leaders, representing the kind of people who had not gone to Dunbar, were bitterly opposed. This became a heated legal issue, fought all the way up to the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. After the political leaders won in court, one of them spoke for those who say that the school represents a symbol of an elitism among blacks that should never happen again. I say we should raise it. They did. The dog in the manger triumphed once more. Washington Post columnist William Raspberry summarized the conflicting feelings about Dunbar High School in the black community when he wrote, "Fill a room with middle-aged blacks who grew up in Washington, mention the word Dunbar, and then take cover. That one word will divide the room into two emotion-charged, outraged, warring factions. Those who did and those who didn't attend Dunbar High School when it was Dunbar." Despite the Supreme Court's pronouncement in the historic 1954 case of Brown versus Board of Education that racially separate schools are inherently unequal, there have been many predominantly or wholly minority schools whose test scores were at or above the national average. The average IQ at Dunbar High School was 111 in 1939 and again in 1950. Ironically, Dunbar was within walking distance of the Supreme Court, which in effect declared its existence impossible. However, it was not the only black school of which this was true.
So, at the time of segregation or integration, Dunbar is at a IQ level of 111. Very good. You know what I'm saying? These are smart kids. He said it's right down the street from the city hall or Capitol, whatever, or Supreme Court. And he's like, but this is what they're going to destroy as they're going to these, they're going with Lyndon B. Johnson. This is what they're about to destroy. Because all these kids, like, they didn't have their chance to individually shine. They got folded into another school curriculum, which funded that school, because you have to remember the money, you know what I'm saying? The bus rides there, the food, all different stuff. It's like that's giving them money. All integration did was destroy black people educationally and economically. It didn't do nothing good for them. It really didn't, because they lost more than they gained in that deal.
Much less the only minority school, for there have also been all Chinese American schools and at least one all American Indian school which have done the same. Many, if not most, predominantly minority schools have performed very poorly, but enough others have not that this cannot be blamed simply on their being racially segregated schools. Not only did M Street Dunbar High School have a racially segregated student body throughout the 85 years of its academic success, so did St. Augustine School, a Catholic high school in New Orleans, which also met national standards in its early history. The first black student from the South to win a National Merit Scholarship came from St. Augustine. So did the first presidential scholar of any race from the state of Louisiana.
Yep. So St. Augustine is a very good school in Louisiana, like that a lot of people sleep on, because, you know, a lot of us say, you know, the South's kind of slow. Well, St. Augustine is actually a very good school. And like he said, you know, any race, you know what I'm saying, that went there got really good, you know, results in their life. It just became a predominantly black school. So basically, black schools weren't bad. You know, the lies that they keep trying to teach, they keep trying to say in history. Oh, like Nas said, oh, they're reading from old school books. You know, they got us old dilapidated. It's like, nah, B, that's the same excuse they gave us to go over there. So because that don't make no sense. Y'all integrated to have Nas say they gave us old textbooks. It's like, so wait a minute, bro. What was the whole point then? Something's not adding up. It's that Democrat switch. It's that shit. That's what's not adding up. Because if you look back and at the school curriculum of black schools, they weren't bad. Dunbar was an all-black school. Their IQ was 111. They weren't dumb at all. We're talking about St. Augustine. Anybody that went there, you know what I'm saying? But the first black person to win a state pride, I forgot what he said. It was like a competition. Was from St. Augustine. That's in St. Louis. I mean, in Louisiana. So it's like, F what you heard. Stop letting these Democrat babies lie to you about black people and how they needed white people. No, they didn't. They needed the Klan to stop burning their crops and destroying their towns. That's what they needed. They didn't need nothing else. They was fine. We had only been integrated for what? 3 years? What was it, like 3 years after we, as soon as we get integrated, it's like 3 years later, 3 black girls helped them get to the moon. So it's like, how dumb are they? Like, how dumb are these black people? We've only been riding for 3 years. They're already coming with calculations to help you get to the moon. They're making security systems. Like, are you serious? How slow are these people? Like, let's keep going.
When St. Augustine was studied back in the 1970s, 20% of all presidential scholars in the history of the state had come from this one school with about 600 black students.
20% of all the fucking smart people in that whole state came from that one black school. And it was only of 600 students. What? Like, I didn't say 1%. I say 5%. It ain't got to be 50 or 90%. 20% is damn good when it comes to education in a whole state. Louisiana's not, around the corner. It's a whole state. So to hold 20%, okay, that leaves 80% for other counties. Like, shoot, can anybody else learn? Can anybody else be smart? But we held 20% out of 600 students. That's damn good for some people that needed to integrate. And it's like the whole Martin Luther King thing is, man, you have to look at what history does when you step out of the integrative programming. You're going into their programming. This is why they didn't teach you this, because they're not about rising up black people. That wasn't the point. That's not the point of the Board of Education, the whole school system itself. You weren't integrated. When they came up with their school system, this is what it was about. It was about white supremacy, bettering white value. It's common sense.
Test scores were never used as a rigid cutoff for admission to St. Augustine. There were students there with IQs in the 60s, as well as others with IQs more than twice that high. Moreover, the average IQ of the school as a whole rose over the years, being in the 80s and 90s in the 1950s, and then reaching the national average of 100 in the 1960s. To put that in perspective, both blacks and whites in the South during this era tended to score below the national average on IQ and other standardized tests. By contrast, with a private Catholic high school like St. Augustine, PS 91 in Brooklyn, New York, was a public elementary school, located in a rundown ghetto and housed in an even older building than the original Dunbar High School. Yet the students in most of the grades in this predominantly black school scored at or above the national norms on standardized tests when I studied it back in the 1970s.
Now look at that. Now smoke on this. Dunbar, St. Augustine, PS 91, I think that's what he said, in Brooklyn. All these are black schools. This is all before the 80s. All of this. All before, hip hop takes all over. All before, horror movie central in the 80s. All before mass production of, TV brain drain. Before all that, private black schools were predominantly charting statewide. I mean, nationwide. They weren't bad at all. They were perfectly fine. They were good. So how? Remember, there's a switch that takes place. You guys go from smart to dumb. There's a switch that takes place. You know that the switch is political. You know it is because you guys became Democrats. You weren't Democrats. You became them. Okay. When you switch, when this switch takes place, you start getting dumber. You start getting more violent. You start getting more addicted to drugs. You start failing. Let's continue.
It was the only school in its district whose students were reading at or above the national average.
Wow.
The next best school in that district had fewer than 40% of its students reading at or above national norms, and a number of other schools in the district had fewer than 30% who reached that level. This was not in any sense a middle-class school or a magnet school. It was just an ordinary ghetto school run by an extraordinary principal. What was more extraordinary to me than the students was the openness with which I was allowed to see whatever I wanted to see. Educators often like to give guided tours to selected and often atypical places, much like the Potemkin village tours in Tsarist Russia. But in PS 91, I was allowed to wander down the halls and arbitrarily pick out which classrooms I wanted to go into. I did this on every floor of the school. Inside those classrooms were black children, much like children you can find in any ghetto across the country. Many came from broken homes and were on welfare. Yet, inside this school, they spoke in grammatical English, in complete sentences, and to the point. Many of the materials they were studying were a year or more ahead of their respective grade levels.
Hey, there, that, dude, that, none of that. From the South all the way to the North, everybody could speak grammatical English. All of them. Didn't I tell people about reading that book, Cracker Culture, and where that whole supposed ghetto slang really comes from hillbillies? Didn't I tell y'all that? They were the ones sagging their pants. That's where you get that from. You can't say that's your knowledge. You as a slave. See, that's the cool thing about really studying history and giving respect to the facts. You was never dumb. They had to make you dumb. That's the thing. And now you just bathing in it. You bathing in your own throw up, not even realizing that that's not you. You keep looking at these other people thinking that they're supreme or superb, not realizing that is your etiquette. That is your style. You just forgot and lost your way. Time to get it back. He said these was from broken homes. These was broken home children. These was deprived welfare children. Still geniuses.
None of these success.
Remember that saying, oh, people in the ghetto are not as bad as people think, or people in jail, oh, they smarter than you know. At a time, they were racially profiled and accused and so now, no, they are doing it. But at a time, yes, this is true. They would be pulling over highly educated people and just doing them dirty for no reason. This is true.
And to the point. Many of the materials they were studying were a year or more ahead of their respective grade levels. None of these successful schools had a curriculum especially designed for blacks. Most had some passing recognition of the children's backgrounds. Dunbar High School, for example, was named for black poet Paul Laurence Dunbar, and it set aside one day a year to commemorate Frederick Douglass. But its curriculum could hardly be called Afrocentric. As Senator Edward Brooke, a Dunbar alumnus, put it, Negro History Week was observed, and in American history, they taught about the emancipation of slaves and the struggle for equality and civil rights. But there was no demand by students for more, no real interest in Africa and its heritage. We knew about Africa as we knew about Finland. Throughout the 85 years of its academic...
What's that mean? He's talking about how today they're trying to marginalize the Black Americans' brain by just subjugating them to slavery and civil rights. When you're supposed to know French poetry, you're supposed to know, great architecture, architects of Russia and Spain. And that's why he said we knew just as much about Africa as we knew about Finland. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't saying that like they didn't know. No, they knew, but they knew both. They weren't just substituted to their skin, because skin has nothing to do with innovation, education, you know what I'm saying? Discipline, order, building, you know? This is why the craftsman style could never be denied by color. Like anybody is welcome to build, because the whole point is about advancing the brain anyway.
Academic success. Dunbar High School taught Latin. In some of the early years, it taught Greek as well. It's
so black. Run it back, Thomas. Tell them what black people were learning back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and the 30s. Dunbar is an 85-year-old school. And I think that was when he did his study on it in 79. So, wow.
In some of the early years, it taught Greek as well.
Some of the
its whole focus was on expanding the
early years, taught Latin and Greek.
In some of the early years, it taught Greek as well. In some of the early years, it taught Greek as well. Its whole focus was on expanding the students' cultural horizons, not turning their minds inward. Still less was its focus on giving students a sense of victimhood or of doors closed, though in fact many doors were closed to them throughout the history of Dunbar's academic success.
Why were black people more motivated to do right when the odds were more against them compared to today when they don't have that many odds against them? That's a deep question. It's like, it seemed like when the fire was under your ass, you guys were more united. You know what I'm saying? You guys were more open to the idea that unity does bring, civility and true harmony amongst, the nations of people, showing that you are grander than just chaos and building great things. I mean, how do you think man ended up having some type of nobility and respect for the animals? You know what I mean? We could have just always looked at them like food, but nah, we ended up turning them into like defensive styles with martial arts and what's the other one? Zoology, where people are talking about their zoo type, you know what I'm saying? The animal that they feel they are. Using it to break down science with teaching tools like the Egyptians did. It's like, look at all this that happens when you think more grand instead of in a bubble. And what I'm saying is, now that all these new gadgets and trinkets are around and the more freedom is there, it's like people have less united and became more selfish, which is odd to me. It's like you guys struggled together just to get into, the promised land to start fighting each other. That doesn't make any sense. That's weird.
On the other hand, many Dunbar alumni were the first to open some of those doors. Instead of today's fashionable focus on grievances,
it's a lot of Indians, man. That's a lot of Indians, man. I mean, all of them, man. Goddamn, man. yeah, they black, all right. Yeah, these Negroes. Yeah, I never said they wasn't. These coloreds too. Yeah, these Indians. Damn. The Aboriginals, man. These Americans, man. These original Americans, man. Something made.
The tone was set by a poem on the assembly wall, written by Paul Laurence Dunbar, for whom the school was named. Its first stanza said,
my goddamn daughter.
Keep a plugging away. Perseverance still is king. Time its sure reward will bring. Work and wait unwearying. Keep a plugging away.
His head,
this was written
see the Masonic symbol. I told y'all there's good Masons. I be trying to tell y'all that shit. Just because you see somebody throwing up something with a sign and something, it doesn't mean that they're the bad ones. I've already told y'all who the bad ones. The bad ones is the ones who spellcast your brain. Okay, that's highly weird. You already know who they cool with. Name me one fucking Republican actor. Name me one Republican singer. Dancer, man, you ain't never seen that shit. You ain't never seen the crowd, and you be like, what about them country singers and shit, bruh? When's the last time you seen them get some mainstream respect? They ain't never shown them motherfuckers respect ever. There was always a country western channel, like they never pushed that shit like that. You know, that's you thinking a certain way, and then you be on some redneck shit where it's like, well, hold up. Well, if a motherfucker bump NWA, does that mean he gonna beat up a white boy? Possibly. Okay, so he's not racist. See, it's one-sided. The slavery stuff, you got to get over that. When you was free, white people were still being sold up and down the Barbie Coast. You got to get over it. You got to get over it. Oh, ain't nobody done nobody worse than you. How the fuck you know? How you know what was done to people? How you know? And rape is cool. Taking somebody's children away from them is cool. Making somebody work all day, that's cool, motherfucker. How you gonna say what was bad and what wasn't? It's not like the white people that were enslaved. They women weren't getting raped. Yeah, they were. It's not like their children weren't being used. Yeah, they was. It's not like they men didn't have to be servitude to labor. Yeah, they did. What are you talking about? It's like, you want to what? You want to go tit for tat? You want to go shot for shot? Where it's like, oh, they cut their dick off. How do you know, player? You weren't there. You haven't even studied this shit. You haven't even studied. And to be honest, the Turks and the Muslims are known for castrating. They're known for that. So if you don't know anything about the Ishaks, I think that's what they call them, where basically they were like the guards in the women's quarters, but they weren't worried about them doing anything to the women because they had already castrated these motherfuckers, but they just recite the Quran. That's what they do. Like, bruh, you got to study history so you can know some stuff, so you can have a lot of shots to shoot at people like, hey, player, don't get your emotional ass away from me. We ain't got time for that. We got time to rise these children up and do something good. It's like, these children were blessed to have a chance to some real education, and it's just the governmental switch due to Boule blacks that made the coloreds and the Negroes turn into blacks and be involved in this color game against white, oppositioning themselves as black, stated by pro-black people back then and still to this day. They say that is why they call themselves black, to be in opposition to white, when you never had to compete with anybody because you were already winning on your own. Let's keep going.
At a time when racial segregation and discrimination were pervasive across the South and were spreading into the North, when blacks were being lynched, and when the very school in which these words were posted received less money than white schools in the same city. Many today might disdain this message of self-improvement as naive at best, but the fact is that it worked. And much that is considered more sophisticated today has a dismal record of failure.
See, just because they're not showing it doesn't mean that Europeans don't acknowledge it. They know this history. They know how strong, the people of the past were. They were not dumb at all. They were good. They got played. And that's the discussion that we need to really maintain it. Who played them?
A particularly painful example of contemporary failure is this account of Dunbar High School in 1993. Rodney McDaniel is a senior at Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C. He is the captain of its football team, which is the best in the city. Rodney McDaniel evidently has the ability to take harder courses than he does. But he, like other students at Dunbar, has been held to low standards by teachers unwilling or unable to demand more. A smaller percentage of Dunbar students go to college now than did 60 years ago. 60 years earlier would have been in the depths of the Great Depression of the 1930s.
Now, I put that up because we just need to realize something, man. We need to realize something. Everybody gonna have a fight. Everybody gonna have a battle. But there's two arguments that have to be, and going to be spoke on. And that is Reconstruction. Damn. And the Indian conversation. You know what I'm saying? Those two have to be spoken on. They have to be brought up. It has to be, globally announced, because to me, and I'm just saying to me, I believe we've been wasting a lot of time. I think this history has already been known. I don't think it's nothing new to anybody in America. I don't think they're, going to be on some stuff like, yo, we didn't know this. No. They know. It's just we haven't grasped that point yet. You know what I'm saying? We ain't grasped point yet that we got a beautiful past and we just have to clean up the present, and it's gonna work both ways. I keep telling women, yo, y'all kind of are the key to this shit. Kind of, in a way, kind of are. Because if you don't like it, it don't move. So you got to get over the ignorance. You got to get over being excited by ignorance when your life could be exciting. Imagine, ladies, if every guy that you met was a millionaire. Your dream, right? The thing that you want, right? Oh, I have more choices, and you want them all to be qualified, right? Okay, well, if your people unite and they go back to their roots of things that they did here, the 50,000 patents, and they go at it politically the correct way, and they get all their just due, all the things that are patented and owed to them, they just haven't reclaimed their history. This is better than reparations. This is live business. This is stuff that's already moving right now. It's already there. You just don't know. Don't you know that the original recipe for Jack Daniels is a black guy? Okay, that's just one patent. That's just one. I said 50,000. Okay, now imagine how many generic versions of your patent has been duplicated. People have made Taiwan Nintendos. Fake as hell. Fake games, all that. Look. Okay. So from there, we should be way past reparations. Who even cares about that? No. Let's get back to our business and what was old and what is old and what is going on. And why are we so dumb? And why are we still holding on to stuff that we invented during the times of us being dumb? Hip hop was cool. Rap was cool, but it's time to let it go. It's time to create a whole new form of music that you can rhyme on, you can sing on. I'm not saying stop the whole essence of what you're doing. I'm saying you have to change the narrative. It needs a whole new name. And it can't be nothing but good stuff, nothing but positive. Completely separated from hip hop, completely separated, call it something totally different. Call it cosmic bump or whatever. But to channel the energy completely different, and that way the industry has no hold over it. They have no control over it because it's something completely new. They can't have hold of it. They're going to be trying to look for artists, but they already have artists. They already have rap artists. So you guys have to stay in that chamber. You can't get out of it and claim something that you're not. No. You have to stay in that realm. You can literally make your own country. You can build a new town. Stuff has not stopped. It's very depressing out here, but you know what? Through pressure, bust pipes and makes diamonds. And through pressure, the coolest of the coolest always makes it through. You always survive. So it's like you have to start looking at things different. Where it's like, well, yeah, it's bad out there. I mean, but they can't touch me, so I'm not worried about it. And I need my people to be more elevated on higher points of what's going on. The whole Indian thing we've been talking about yesterday, but we'll always talk about it too. But right now we're talking about how you got played from a team that has kept you in the ghetto and broke, and with a couple Mr. Bojangles dangling in front of you and no real results. Oprah Winfrey's, the Dr. Dre's, the Jay-Z's. There are so many black people who have had boatloads of money in front of you and have done nothing for their people. Excuse me. And then you got these people talking about this individual stuff. Yeah, it's easy for another group to say who's already, in good status. Excuse me. But not for them. They need constant work. They should be constantly building. Just like Jews do when they're outside walking around. They're not talking to everybody. Just like Spanish people. They keep their Spanish. They don't talk to everybody. Just like Russians. You notice everybody's doing that. Except this one group. They want everybody to look at them. Be in their face. And it's like, where's your element of surprise? Where's your class? Where's your dignity? Where's your pride? You should feel more for yourself than wanting to hurt each other. That doesn't make any sense. And honestly, acknowledge your foul. Acknowledge you're hurt at your parents, bro. You're hurt at your upbringing, sis. It has nothing to do with the people that are not around you and you're just meeting for the first time in reality. It's nothing to do with them. It's the inner demons that you're fighting. The battle of the demons that people are talk about. Hey, I'm battling demons out here. Hey, not the demons are within you, motherfucker. Ain't nobody can even. It's just like a vampire. They can't even. They're not even allowed in your house unless you welcome them in. Rules to the game. You know what I'm saying? You have to welcome chaos into your reality. Other than that, it doesn't exist. Even if somebody threatens you, you know what I mean? You have so many ways to take that. You can just instantly take off on them. You can try to joke it out, or you can just simply ignore it and be like you didn't even hear it. It didn't even happen. That happens a lot. See, a lot of people act tough and just get completely silenced, just ignored. Don't even exist. These guys are handling business. Like white people do it all the time. Construction people doing construction, they talking to each other and shit. They're not worried about the motherfucking mean mug walk across the street. They're not even looking at you. You don't even exist. Why? Because they have business to do. When a man's handling business, he's handling business. It's one of the best parts of the day. One of the best parts of your life. Something constructive. Democrats did us dirty. It was a big game that started from Bush Sr. Once Ronald Reagan got in, because this is where people be messing up. People be like, oh, Ronald Reagan. No, this is the same thing y'all did with Trump. Y'all full of crap. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat his whole damn career. Until the end. Until he goes up for presidency, I think the second time, because he ran once and lost, and then he tried it again and he won. The second time, that's when he became a Republican. He was never no Republican. He was always a Democrat. All of a sudden, oh, it's Reaganomics. I don't talk about Reaganomics. Y'all running with Obama and Bill Clinton. Nigga, George Bush Sr. was only in there for 4 years. He only got 4 summers player just like Trump, so you can't say he did too much to your life when you got the whole Reaganomics. Reagan was in there for the full 8. Actually, I think 10, because that's before the regulation was only 8 years. I think he was in there for like 10 years. Oh, Reaganomics destroyed the ghetto. Oliver North brought the drugs in. He had to testify in front of the president in, the Supreme Court. How you going to say that the president is working with him? The Supreme Court is working for the president. Commander-in-chief runs the whole military. So why is Oliver North in court having to testify if this is my guy? He would have never hit the stand. See? I'm trying to educate the backward street Democrat thug who don't know anything. He just heard his grandmama talking about some bullshit on the news that they put in her ear. Here to wake you up, man. We've been had glorified times. We've been smart. We've been had all that stuff. So all that I don't understand. And it's a lie. It's a lie. You just raised wrong. Voodoo Ranger IPA, yo, this thing is lying though. It's not bad. It's pretty good. But, oh yeah, it's made from New Belgium. New Belgium, yo, it's not bad. But, yo, I just wanted to put out some information, yo. I just wanted to show people at the end of the day, stop fronting. You know what I mean? You know I got you open, kid. Don't front. Stop fronting on our background, man. Stop acting like whips and chains is the only program. Stop acting like us marching down the street like a bunch of punks trying to kick it with some white boys, eat some sandwiches at a bar. Was the only thing we wanted to do. Get your whole ass out of here, bro. We're way more innovative, cooler, and slicker than that. And here's the thing. It's not even about being racist, because I don't even have a problem with nobody. I don't care. I just want my people up before I pass the fuck out in this one reality, especially with all these background stories of how high and mighty we were living. The shit gets annoying. It's like, why are we thugging, bro? Why are you being a gimmick for a stage that's not even a stage anymore? A stage got so many cracks and holes and fucking lint marks and fucking doo-doo stains and ketchup chips all up over this motherfucking stage. We 31 trillion in debt. What the fucking stage y'all watching? China on the rise. Shit, what the fuck? The whole world's involved. So why ain't the whole world taking L's? Or, no, my bad. Taking hits. I don't use that terminology. L's up, always. Fucking, why ain't nobody else taking hits? Why everybody else fucking, seem like they getting better and shit? We the ones getting shot the fuck up. Don't even see it coming. Maybe because there is a line in the sand between good Masons and bad Masons. I'm about to end up telling motherfuckers something. How could you believe that everybody from Africa, when one group of people that were enslaved over here, this is what they say, captive, this one group conjured up 5, 6, 8, 12, 15 types of music genres. Just this one group by themselves. Africa didn't even do that. They got little dances, but all the beats sound the same. All the beats sound the same. I ain't heard no difference in their drum pattern. Pretty much all sound the same. So how we get jazz, blues, rock and roll, doo-wop, funk, jitterbug, which is like that Minnie the Moocher stuff, the Duke Ellington stuff, neo soul, like, bro, I keep going, like, how many different genres of music, rock and roll, like, hello, like, anywhere you go, I'm at your ass. Soul music, you know what I'm saying? Gospel, like, what do you want? Country music, what do you want? What do you want? I'm all these fields. I created all of them. And I'm from over there. I need to be verified. Come on, bro. Like, there's something else. Oh. Okay, where's the peanut discovered? In America. All right, who discovered the peanut? George Washington discovered. But wait a minute. How many different ways did he discover to use this thing? 300 times. 300 fucking ways of how to use a peanut to the benefit of humanity. You show me that in Africa, B. Not disrespecting them people. I got no problem with them. I'm just saying, yo, before you try to take me over somewhere, you show me them doing that. And then why I got more pyramids over here than over there? Why do I have the biggest pyramid on earth over here and not over there? Why is the oldest pyramid on earth made before Egypt was created? It's weird, yo. It's weird. But I will say this. Peace and love. I appreciate, people coming through. Leave a comment, man. You know what I'm saying? Leave a comment. I need that, whatever it's called, the algorithms up. I need the analyticals to go. You know what I'm saying? I need likes. I need people to say something. Even if you say, fuck you, I don't even care. But I need all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? I need all that trimming. So, bring your bot page, bring your real page. Shit, bring your fucking cousin's page. I don't give a damn. But I need this train moving for more better discussions. I'm going to end up, getting a little Holly weird on y'all with the fake background and shit. I'll do that more. You notice I got the green screen in the back. You can see it right over there. Shit, you can see it right there. But you see it. You see it right there. You see it right there. I'm just more into the information. Not really worried about all the theatrics. It's getting hotter. I'm gonna start getting more bars out there. Trust me. I got some stuff coming. I just gotta find the right beats, man, for the right feels, for the right times. I'm feeling a lot of classical stuff. I can't front. I'm feeling a lot of stuff like this. I'm feeling a lot of vibes like this. You know what I mean? Get a little smoother as your brain gets more developed. But I will have some hard shit out here for y'all. I got Metallica coming out. That's pretty dope one. I need to put Veteran up here. I got this one with Sachi Beats. Sachi! That one's flame. And just take care of yourselves, man. Enjoy yourselves on this Friday. And hey, remember, what black people gave up just to be buddy-buddy with people. You know what I'm saying? The education, the knowledge, the power, the unity, the structure, the system. There you go. Gotta do better. Goes.